To buy?
Or not to buy?
That is the question.
But to buy what, though?
A property or land.
Is it the right time to buy that right now?
Well, let's figure it out. On today's episode of Expert Tips, we're going to be talking about real estate or real stress.
I need to find me a realtor because I need to move out my mama's house.
I have just the thing.
Welcome to Expert Tips podcast show. I'm your host, Winton Francis, with my co-host,
Elsa Regalado.
And we're talking to all the experts. Today we have our special guest, who's a realtor, right?
Absolutely. Her name is Danay Puebla Llanos, and she's a broker at Land & Realty.
Oh, nice. I've been waiting to talk to a realtor because I need to move out my mama's house so badly.
Well, there she is. Welcome to the show, Danay. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, Danay. How do you like being a realtor?
I love it. I love helping people. I love seeing their faces once they get the keys to their new home. It's fulfilling for me.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Tell us a little bit how you started in the real estate industry.
Well, previously I had been in the medical field for over 20 years. Okay. And it was time to make a change. Real estate was always something that I look up to doing, but never took a chance. And decided in 2016 to take a dive, retire completely from the medical field, and went into real estate. Ever since, I wish I would have done it sooner.
Interesting. Danay, tell us how normally your clients find you.
Mostly is referrals. You do a good job, they refer you, you sell a house to one person, and then that person has a friend, a family member, and the word gets spread.
So you're a realtor and I don't have a house. I want a house.
Okay.
How's that process go, selling or buying the house? Like if I see you, I met you, we've talked and so on and so forth. How does that process go?
First of all, the first thing I would do is get you qualified to see what you qualify for. And because I don't want to go out there and show you a property that you might fall in love with and either not be able to afford or anything can happen. So to take you straight to what you want and to do my job better, I prefer to get you qualified first.
What kind of qualifications would I need?
You will need to provide your income. Basically, qualification goes between income, expenses, and then there's an average depending on what type of loan that you would qualify for, and then based on that, then we just fine.
Do I need better credit? Because my credit is a little, I don't want to say bad, but it's floating like the Titanic right now. Okay.
The better your credit, the better your interest rate will be. Okay. So the better your monthly payments will be.
Okay. So better credit gets you a better house.
Yes.
I gotta
better monthly payments.
Better monthly payments. I don't want to be paying out of wazoo for a house that's gonna be, 30 years in with the family, and I want to make sure the house is good,
Well, Winton here, he's a freelancer, so he basically works for himself. He's a 1099. Can you explain to us a little bit between being a 1099 recipient versus a W-2?
Okay, as a 1099, what I always recommend my clients, if they're not immediately ready to buy, I always tell them that when they do their taxes, please do not expense everything like I
don't put everything on there.
No.
I bought a stick of gum.
No. That's the biggest mistake most buyers make.
Okay.
So as a 1099, as a W-2, it's pretty straightforward. You make what you make, and that's it.
Everything is filled in for you from the company that you work for versus 1099 when you're doing it yourself and putting in all the. I bought a number 2 pencil from the.
When you do that on a 1099, then no, that actually reduces your chances of qualification.
Do people know that?
Not necessarily, no.
Oh, man.
But when I approach somebody or somebody approaches me, I do explain to them the importance of when you do the taxes. I understand that you have expenses, but not every expense that you put in your taxes are going to qualify you. For example, expenses such as mileage or depreciation. If your business entitles you to drive, you would have obviously a car or truck that you can depreciate throughout the years.
Yeah.
And that is one of the expenses that you can use as income when you're qualifying for the purchase of a home.
Okay.
Also mileage. Mileage is one or the other. Mileage is also another expense that you can use as income when qualifying for the purchase of a home.
So should I save all my gas receipts?
Yes.
Wow.
As long as they're company expenses.
Okay.
Yes.
So a little trip to Disney World is not.
No, it's not.
Little R&R never. You need that, right?
I mean, smart question though. I have a question. How much is needed for a down payment for a first-time home buyer versus a conventional loan?
Okay, first-time home buyer, there's a misconception. People think that first-time home buyers are someone who's never owned a home. They also refer to as the FHA loan, which you come in with less down payment. So, for example, on an FHA loan, you're allowed to come in with a 3.5% down payment. With conventional, although there are 3% loans that 3% down loans that you can come in with, the typical is 5%. So the difference between one and the other is that you can only have one FHA loan at a time. So, for example, you bought a house today and you won the lottery and you paid it off in 2 years and you decide
A dream.
and you decide to buy another house. Since you don't have a current FHA loan, you're able to buy another house as an FHA loan, which gives you the benefits as a first-time buyer, but you're not a first-time buyer at that point because you already had another home. You can only have one FHA loan at a time. Conventional, you can buy a conventional property. You can buy 2 or 3 at the same time if you have the money.
Wow. Speaking of money, I don't want to lose my money and going to the wrong realtor. And I don't know a lot about the financial part about it. So people say to me, oh, you need to put your money in a bird crow. I don't know how you guys say it.
On an escrow account?
Escrow, right. My fault. Escrow account. So can you explain what an escrow account is?
Okay, the title company would hold your money in a it's called an escrow account. It's the account that is used for putting monies that you are using for the purchase of the home. But that is in a title company. Usually the ones that I normally work with are with lawyers. So your money is secure.
Okay.
I make sure that your money is secure.
I don't want it to fly the coop. Okay?
Oh,
So
no.
I don't want that to happen because I've heard some bad, some scary things about, real estate in South Florida. So it sometimes gets me a little nervous. So I just wanted to make sure that my money is in good hands.
Yes.
Okay.
Usually I've heard those things on rentals.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Rentals, I've heard some scary stories. Yes, people, I don't even know how they do it, but they take the deposits from the client and they'll give the client a key. The client moves in thinking that they're moving into a house that they rented. And next thing you know, you have the landlord knocking on your door and asking, who are you? And it's happened.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, scary.
That's so scary.
And they're considered squatters.
Yes, they are.
Wow.
And believe it or not, if I'm not mistaken, there are some rules that you have to follow when there is somebody in your property. Don't you have a certain amount of time when the person, you have to go through.
You have to go through the process of the courts and eviction.
You can't just take them
You
out.
can't just take.
I can't just kick in the door and say,
No.
get out of my house.
No, you cannot.
Nope.
Oh, no.
They're considered squatters. And can you tell, do you have a little bit of insight on that?
No, usually from the knowledge that I have, if you're in a property for more than 72 hours, whomever is going to kick you out has to go through the process of
The court
the
system.
court system.
Wow, that's unfair. That
It
is
is.
unfair.
You imagine that?
No, I don't want to imagine that. I do not want to imagine that. That sounds like a nightmare on both ends for the seller and the buyer, and potentially the person who didn't know that he just got scammed.
And I think it's happened a lot when they place these properties on the marketplace, if you see them like on OfferUp or Facebook, you can see that, you contact the person and they'll tell you, yeah, to see the property is like $300 up front. You already know that's a scam.
I do those things where I like to go on like Zelle and just imagine myself living in one of these big expensive houses. I sure would hate to end up buying one and then somebody's knocking on the door like, you need to go.
Yeah,
I would
basically.
hate for that to happen.
And as far as when the person puts the money on escrow, if the client wants to know, if the contract falls through or the client doesn't get to close, what security do they have to getting their deposit?
That's when there's good realtors and there's realtors. Realists.
Keeping it real.
Keeping it real. Yes. Well, your realtor is supposed to guard your money.
Okay.
There is a contract. So there are dates that you have to abide by.
Mm-hmm.
There are rules that you need to, as a good realtor, go by.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, I am always on top of all the due dates make sure that nothing expires because you're putting the client's money at risk. So you have to make sure that none of those days go by.
Give us an example on the expiration. You're talking about like inspection, appraisal.
Inspection is basically is what protects the buyer. Is the inspection period protects the buyer to, if the buyer wants to retract their offer, they can walk out within the inspection period pretty much without giving an excuse.
Really?
Yes.
With no penalty?
No penalties, as long as you do it within your inspection period.
Okay.
Which is basically between, 7 and 10 days?
It all depends what's agreed on.
So I got a question for you. Which one do you find more difficult, selling the house or buying the house?
Well, it all depends. It all depends, because if you have the listing, selling the house, and if you have the client, is a breeze.
Okay.
But working with buyers, you're basically competing, not having a property, you're basically competing with every realtor in the industry.
That's putting on an offer on the property.
Yes. I've had clients where I've put 10, 15 offers and they've gotten denied because there's somebody else comes and offers more, or, has different offers that will change. I mean, it's crazy. This market right now, though, although it's slowing down a little bit in the aspect of bidding, there's not enough inventory out there.
No?
So
No reasons.
for sales, no. So what's happening is that buyers, you do an open house. The other day, I went to show a house to one of my clients. I was the first one there, so I always like to be on time. And while I was showing the property, I had like 5 or 6 people waiting to come in and see the house. I was like, this is going to be a tough one.
Wow.
We put an offer and got a bid.
Is there not enough inventory because of this location here in South Florida? There's not enough houses here, or?
It's after COVID, a lot of people migrated from New York, California, and everywhere, and everybody wants to live in Miami.
It's a hot spot right now.
It is.
Wow.
It is.
So how do you know that you're picking the right realtor within all of these realtors out here? Like, how do you know that you picked a certified one, or like, how do you get your due diligence to pick the right realtor?
Well, as far as knowing if they're real,
Right, keeping it real.
they have an active license. There's the DVPR website
Okay.
that you can just do a search by the realtor's name,
Okay.
or you can ask them for their license number, and you can see the status of their application.
Okay.
So that's number one. And as far as getting a good one, it's basically interviewing them
Like this.
like this.
Okay.
A simple phone call.
A simple phone call. I mean, you based on your conversation, the knowledge, you'll know more or less. I mean, you talk to a few of them, and not everybody's going to have the same answers. Some of them might not have the same knowledge, and
Okay.
basically that's how you narrow them down.
So is it better to get one with more experience versus a little?
More years of experience, more years certified doesn't mean more experience.
Okay.
Because not every realtor practice for as a full-time or for the same length.
Okay. Now,
When you have a client that comes to you and says, Danay, I'm qualified for a certain, this, let's say $500,000, and I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with a pool, and they tell you, I want to live in Kendall.
Okay.
But obviously knowing how the market is, do you try to persuade them into looking into other zip codes? How does your client pick a neighborhood? How because I know there's some clients that are like, okay, I've always lived in Hialeah or I've always lived in Kendall, I want to stay there. But then is there a way that, a tactic that you use as far as guiding them into maybe expanding their search?
Well, the first, if they're only qualified for $500,000.
there you go, Chuck. You got to have a cap.
Yes.
I should have brought it up a little.
$500,000 Hialeah and Kendall is going to be tough.
I gave her 2 very expensive
It's going to be tough.
Okay.
But I mean, we have to do the search. We might come across one, but
And it's normally not renovated.
normally not renovated, and a lot of people you would have competition because everybody's looking for the same lower pricing, so that's tough. We'll have to look at your taxes again and see how we can expand and get you a higher qualification.
Okay, and in a scenario like that, if the person that is buying needs a little bit more, but obviously they don't have the means to take their loan to that specific number, how does it work if they want to have a cosigner?
We'll just have to qualify the cosigner just the same way as we qualified the main person. Income, expenses, debt.
Okay.
So,
Is that usually with married people or single people?
no, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Is it which one do you find for easier to deal with? Family, trying to find a home, or a single person looking for a home?
Well, if a single person makes a lot of money, it'll be easy.
Yeah, because then you have the wife that wants the kitchen,
Okay.
the husband or the boyfriend that wants the backyard.
Okay.
And then she wants a specific color floor. He wants it another color, and then it becomes a war.
Oh.
Not only that, you also have to take in consideration their credit scores.
Oh.
Because
both parties.
unfortunately, the interest rate is based on the one with the worst credit score.
Why?
It's like when you go buy a car, they always use your lowest credit score. You have 3, so they always go with the lowest.
That's not fair. I'm trying
It's not nice.
Best one,
It's not nice. I know. Then I had a question. As far as, let's say, 2 people that want to buy a property together, they're not married, and there's a conflict of who goes on title. Let's say just one person is qualified, they're in a relationship, they say they're married but they're not. How does it work for this person to be on title? How does the second person have any part into the property buying?
You don't necessarily have to be both qualified for the loan to be entitled. One can be qualified, and then it could be tenant in common and just be added to title. And then the other person rakes the benefits, and the one holding the loan at the debt.
So if you have a girlfriend,
Wow.
this is not helping.
That's not
helping. This is not helping.
Wow. So I think I might just go get a house by myself first, and then move on. Right.
In this case, if he were to do that and he along the line gets married, automatically it falls into the wife she has rights to the property, or she have to be added to the title? Is it feasible to do that?
It's not. She doesn't have to be added to the title unless you want to add her to the title.
Okay.
Is it hard? Is it complicated, the process?
No, it's not. You have to check with the bank, though, that's giving that you have the loan with, if they allow you to add someone afterwards. If the house is paid free and clear, that's no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I've seen this new trend going around here in South Florida where people are putting solar stuff on their roofs. Now, is that helping the house as far as selling it later, or, or is it like, I don't know, like how to ask the question, but I just see a lot of people with this and I'm just confused about it. Like, is it good, bad for selling or buying the house?
It's good in the sense if it's saving you money on electricity, it's good. When you go sell, if you pay it up front, then you're done. But if you're adding it to your property taxes, you would have to pay it at closing. So basically, whatever proceeds you were gonna make, they'll deduct whatever you have left from your proceeds and pay it off.
Now, does that also fall with the window? What are those?
Impact windows and doors.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the same.
So all those things fall on there. Because I know I've seen people with the impact windows and the solar roof, and now they're having the Tesla chargers added to the house. So I'm just trying to figure out all these additions to your house. Is it improving it for the sale? Or?
Of course.
Okay.
And it also helps in insurance purposes.
Yes, definitely. Yes, when you have impact windows, not so much the solar panels, but when you have impact windows, new roofs, obviously your insurance is lower.
Are the roofs more like the most expensive thing that you want to make sure that your roof that you're getting on this house is good, right?
Yes.
You don't want to buy a new roof, is what I've heard.
Yeah, no, it's pretty expensive. And also, if you don't have a good roof, correct me if I'm mistaken, if you don't have a good roof or it doesn't pass inspection, you won't be able to close on the property.
No. If you can't obtain insurance, the bank would not give you the loan.
So insurance is required and or necessary for some loans, not all of them.
It's required.
For FHA and conventional?
Yes.
Oh, okay. See?
All right.
Yeah.
As long as you have a mortgage, you're required to have insurance.
And that's a law. Or that's
It's one of the rules from the bank.
one of the rules for the
They
bank.
want to protect their investment. God forbid a hurricane comes by and tears down the house.
That's very common here.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't want my house getting blown away, and then I'm like, oh wait, I didn't pick up the insurance.
Tell us a little bit how the interest rates are affecting buyers or sellers at the moment in this market.
Interest rates are high, and interest rates are based on the employment reports. This is going into economics.
Well, housing and money all ties together. I understand.
If the employment report comes out every 6 weeks, or just about, so if the employment report comes low, the feds tend to hold or not to raise at that time. But if the employment report comes good or positive, then there's usually a hike.
I need everybody to go find a job. House.
Well, not necessarily, because if employment is good, interest rate go high.
Okay, everybody lose jobs.
Meaning the economy is doing well.
Something has to get raised. Something has to
balance.
What was your recent purchase or not purchase? Your recent sale that you've done? A sale that you've done. What was the final interest rate for the last property you sold?
Well, this was a duplex that I just closed yesterday, and interest rate was at 7.25%. With points.
With points.
Well,
Can you please explain what that means?
Yeah, what's with points?
Points is you basically buy down the interest rate.
You buy it down.
Yes.
Okay.
So the interest rate was at 7.75%, and they paid to a quarter a point or half a point to bring the interest rate down. So
It helps.
It does?
It sounds confusing, but it helps.
you have to. I mean, a point is 1% of the loan amount.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to calculate, let's say, how much money you're paying and how long it's going to take you to pay it off. If you're going to buy the property as a long term, you usually break even at the 5, 6, 7 years mark. So if you're expecting to keep the property for longer than that, then it's worth it.
How long are these contracts for these houses? 'Cause I've heard there's 15 and a 30 year, correct?
So there's 15, there's 20, there's 30. Usually you go for 30.
Okay.
The client chooses it, or is given by the bank?
No, you have the choice. But most loans are done in 30 years unless you specifically ask for for less years, which in turn brings down your interest rate. But because it's less time, your monthly payments are higher.
Okay, so less time, more money. So that's people who are just rolling over houses and just buy properties and reselling them. That's who buy the shorter years, or
No, not necessarily. On the contrary, when you're buying and selling, you don't want to buy for a shorter time because you don't want your monthly payments to be higher.
Okay.
You basically buy for the longer term, and your monthly payments are higher. You flip the house and you spend less out of pocket initially.
Oh.
So
So is that what a lot of house flippers do?
yes, most of them do hard money, and hard money is private lending. But those private lenders charge you like 3 points up front, and interest rate is much higher. But then again, you're in the property for maybe 6 months, 3 months. So it really doesn't affect you as much.
Those house flippers, I don't know how do you get into that? Like, is that you just have one realtor? Like, Diane, I want a house flip and use you as my realtor. Like, how does someone get into that?
Well, investors, they're called investors.
Okay, investors.
Investors usually have connections with either banks, lawyers who give them like leads or to either probates, foreclosures. They have connections.
Wow. So they got
Yeah,
inside track.
It's
guys.
hard to get into flipping houses because by the time we buy the property, if we buy from one of the investor's already making his money. So we have less margin to flip a house unless we buy a house that needs to be fully remodeled, and you try to cut cost remodeling the house to just make a profit.
Wow.
Pretty much.
Now, I've seen the growing market of houses being bought and sold in my neighborhood, and I've seen houses that were basically, I don't know how to say it, a debacle. You know, it was just trash. And I was like, wow, how did that house go for almost $500,000? Like, it's the same house that's just been falling apart, and now it's still sitting there. Now $500,000. Like, I don't know how that works, or why is that even happening. I don't know if you can explain that to me.
An investor, I mean, if the house is, let's say a house is abandoned, and an investor comes with cash always has more leverage.
Cash is king.
So you're going to pay less for a house coming in with cash than financing it. Because the cash purchase is a shorter period. So you can buy a house cash within 7 days.
And how much cash are they walking up into? Are they walking with like a duffel bag?
No.
Here's $200,000.
No, you have to have proof. You have to show where you got that money
Yes.
from.
Okay.
Yes, the money.
Usually these investors know
Yes.
what they're doing.
I
So
mean, I've seen a movie, the guy walking double bag like, I'm ready to buy it.
it doesn't work like that anymore. Not anymore. Now we would definitely have no houses on the market. Zero. Okay, so the people that are interested in buying in this current market with this interest rate, if they want to wait, should they wait for interest rates to be reduced? And how would that affect them if they want to refinance their home in the near future?
Okay, if they can afford to buy a house in this market, I say go for it because prices are going to keep rising. So you can always refinance later on when interest rates drop. And in my personal opinion, I think that interest rates will start leveling out, if not dropping, after the elections, maybe a couple of years after. So, but prices on the homes are going to still be on the rise. So my best bet, there's no better time to buy than the present time.
And in the case that the person they want to refinance after interest rates have lowered, what is the process for them to do it? And more or less, how much money do they need in order to make this happen?
Usually when you refinance your home, the closing costs that you incurred will be incorporated into your loan. which you won't even feel on your monthly payments. So that shouldn't even be something to be too concerned about.
Okay.
Sweet. I'm going to refinance that house immediately.
As soon as interest rate drops.
There you go. Danay, tell me a little bit, do you like, I mean, this is more of like a you answer. Do you like to represent the seller or the buyer? Do you have more fun when is it easier? Is it more relaxing when you do one versus the other?
Well, when you represent the seller, it's a lot easier. Why? Because you have the product. You have the house. So you know you're bound to sell the house.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a buyer, you have to compete with everybody else out there.
But doesn't it make it difficult when you do represent the seller and you see all these beautiful families coming in and you're like, who do I pick?
Like the back.
Obviously, a lot of things you take into consideration, I'm sure.
Yes, but you can't get attached to the client.
Yeah, like
You
a
have,
tennis court.
and when you present the offer, you have to present the paper. So you have to look at the best offer. You have to present them all, but you basically present them to the seller, and you tell them, well, this one has better credit, this one has better qualifications, this one is okay, and you can't mix emotions when
I don't care about Nelly. I want who got the most money, man. Who gonna give me the extra dollar? That's what I want.
that's how they look at it.
In real estate, as a real estate professional, do you have to do you have to present all offers? Can you omit some? Is it illegal? What is the process in doing that?
You are binded to, unless they tell you anything below this number, don't bring to me.
Okay.
Then you work for the seller in that sense. But if you don't get any of those instructions, then you do have to present all offers,
And
verbal and written.
Verbal and written.
yes.
What do you mean?
You call my client, I guess.
I have a client who's interested offering X amount of money for this property. Do you think the seller will take it? So you do have to forward that information to the seller.
Okay. All right. I think I'm gonna buy me a house real soon.
I think I have a realtor for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Oh, Diane. So
Danay.
Deny.
It's Danay.
Don't deny my house. All right. Sorry about that. Well, I have you been around like a lot of neighborhoods in Miami, right? Like Miami Gardens is a racially gentrified neighborhood, correct?
Yes.
How is that selling a gentrified neighborhood versus selling a regular non-gentrified neighborhood? Like, do the neighborhoods matter to the to the buyers?
No. I mean, when you get a buyer, first thing you look is at the qualification.
Mm-hmm.
They may want to live in Coco Plum, but their qualification doesn't get them to Coco Plum. So I can't tell them, oh, you can't live in the neighborhood you want to live in because you don't qualify. I just have to tell them, based on your qualification, these are all the properties that are available, and then they make the choice.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not allowed to steer.
I figure. I just want to live in a nice, good neighborhood. That's
We could
cool.
take a ride. All of South Florida. Well, that was our time for today. Thank you, Danay, for being part of our panel today. We appreciate your time, and we wish you much success in your business. Thank you for having me.
You got any way of telling people where they can reach you at? Office, phone number, email, anything of that nature?
They can reach me at 305-338-6436. I'm the realtor for you.
The realist.
The realistic realtor.
Thank you, Diane.
That was Danay. Don't forget to subscribe,
And like.
turn on your notifications.
And give us a comment on who the next expertise you want to see on Expert Tips podcast show.
I'm your host, Elisa Rayado.
I'm Winton Francis.
See you next time.
Peace.